My name is Kelly Davis. I'm from the Montgomery City County Public Library System from the Coliseum branch. Today I've got Beth Samfier with us, and we're going to be talking about homeschooling and some tips and tricks to help you through your homeschooling, whether you're already homeschooling or are thinking about doing it for the first time. I know that right now some people are thinking about it and never have thought about it before because of all this COVID stuff. And so we're going to get into that today and hope to give you some good resources and help to settle some of those fears that you might have. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Beth. I think you will love her. And what are the ages of your kids?
Got 6 kids. Ava is 12 and she is starting grade 8 this year. I've got a set of twins. Peter and Emily are 10 and they are going into grade 6. And then Abigail is going to be 10 in May and she is going into grade 4. Luke just turned 7 and he is starting grade 2. And then we've got the 1.5-year-old baby who is going to be doing potty training 101. Hopefully. We'll see.
Very cool. Yeah, grade matters a little less when you're homeschooled, but it's still, you still keep track of what they're supposed to do every year. And
yes, because we try and stay on schedule with things, but it really doesn't matter. And when you ask a homeschooler what grade they're in, they may struggle because they may be in a certain grade level for English, but another grade level entirely for math or science, and so they may be in a spattering of ages and grade levels depending on their situation. And that was the beauty of homeschooling, is you have that freedom. You can choose and you can go ahead and place them where they need to be according to their needs and not based on testing standards and public school particulars.
cool. Well, tell us a little bit more about your family and where you're from.
My husband and I are Canadian. We've moved down here to the States with my husband's work, and 4 of the kids were born in Phoenix, Arizona, and we've got a Midwesterner, Chicago area, and then the baby is a little Southerner. He's even a southpaw. My first left-handed. I'm not sure exactly what to do with him, but we'll be learning as we go.
Very cool. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into the homeschool questions. So the first one is, what advice can you give to those who have never homeschooled before?
If you've never homeschooled before, then you just take a big deep breath and you enjoy your babies. And you read to them, you find out what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then you move on from there. If you already know kind of the direction that you want to go with them, then you go ahead and start moving in that direction. And as you go, each day is a new day. You're going to learn something new about them, how they learn, what their joys are, what their fears are, and then you can work with them through that.
Okay, great.
If you've never homeschooled before, you do need to know the law side of things. And I'm a Christian, and so I try to base everything that I do on the scriptures. And the scriptures talk about knowing the law and using the law to your benefit. And so HSLDA is a really good beginning for that. You have lawyers on standby pretty much if you needed something like that, and all sorts of questions and answers that you can go through. But you pay the fee at the beginning of the year, and then you're covered after that. The laws in Alabama have changed for homeschooling. used to be that you needed to be under a cover school. It's nice to be under a cover school still, so that you've got extra resources on hand, so that if you've got extra questions or if you wanted to socialize your kids, there's always that formal possibility.
Very cool.
I think if you've got a plan, kind of talk to your husband, or if you're the husband, talk to your wife and try and get a good game plan put together. Talk to your kids, include your kids, and that will help them stay motivated through the year. And when the motivation is kind of starting to slack off a bit, you can remind them that we had a deal at the beginning of the year. We agreed that this is going to be our game plan, and let's try and see it through. Really just do your best, let God take care of the rest, and just rest in that. It will work, not to worry.
Yeah, a lot of kids, they like the idea of staying home and being in their pajamas, and
Yes.
so do you like to, kind of an extra question, do you like to kind of outline the rewards and that they get that they wouldn't have at school, that they get with homeschool?
My kids have never been to school, and so they don't have anything comparison-wise except for what they see on the television. And so they do know that when we go to the zoo, we try to go on days that the school kids are not generally there, because they know that they're going to have all of the freedom, that they can just run through everywhere and explore things that when the school kids are there, they have to stand in line and wait their turn for. So that part, you know, they like the freedom that way. Our kids know that if they get their work done at a certain time, then we've got the freedom of going to the zoo, to the art gallery, to the orchestra, different things that are extra. The field trips are there, and so that helps to motivate.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, that's cool. Very great. And you get to use your religion in it, and that's kind of outline the things that you want to outline, and not worry about, you know, them having to learn from someone else and that you might not agree with.
Yeah, I mean, our religion, it's everyday life, and so it's just something that we just talk about as we go through day by day, moment by moment. And so as a homeschooler, you've got the opportunity to be with your kids, to learn with them, to watch their faces as they're discovering things for themselves, and also to watch their faces as they puzzle through different things, and try and understand what's being taught here versus what they know from another source, and balance it out. And you're able to be there to help guide them as well as to let them explore and learn.
That's good. Yeah. Help keep an open mind.
Yes. You don't want them to have closed minds. You want them to just be open and free to explore, but you're there to help guide them, to teach them,
Right.
and to correct them when something has been taught that may not be an actual fact but a theory.
Perfect. Okay. How do you structure the day to keep the kids motivated and on task?
Okay, so we have a schedule. That schedule can be as loosey-goosey as you want it to be, or it can be as tight. Our family, we fly by the seat of our pants most days, because that's our personality. You know, I've got some friends who are very scheduled down to, you know, the last 5 minutes of their life. It's all scheduled. So our schedule is by the half-hour increments for the most part. It's also based on how much time I've noticed we need for particular subjects. And so that's something that you can do as your family dictates. Several of my kids like to have schedules based on the 5-minute regimen, which I just really struggle with. But then several of my children also prefer the very open and easy lifestyle where they wake up when they wake up and they'll get this much done when they get this much done, if that. Now, in the real world, they are used to coming to work on time and leaving after your workload is finished. And so my job as a homeschooling mom is to teach them for life, life skills. And so we work on that, and we try to follow the schedule as much as possible. So we also use paper clips. I go through the kids' books, the textbooks that they write in, and I go ahead and I paperclip each section. So each week they know that they have to get this much done. And if they don't get that done by Friday morning, we don't go to the zoo. We don't go on our field trip. We don't get something extra fun, special to do because they have not scheduled their time properly. So I try to teach them, reading at the beginning, and then after that, they start learning independence. And so I require even the 7-year-old to look at his paperclip section, and he has to get that done. If he wants to spend all day Monday and do nothing but math, that's his prerogative, that's fine with me. If he wants to do a little bit of math one day, a little bit of spelling the next day, or however he wants to do it, he knows that he has to get this much paperclip finished by Friday, and that's up to him. So that helps with motivation because he knows that this much is expected of him, and he also has the freedom to choose how he's going to use his time. If he wants to play Army Men all day Monday, he knows that he has to get things done Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that really helps with the motivation and staying on task. So we've got examples of schedules that I'll give Kelly so that you guys can use those. Because as a homeschooler first starting out, I craved other people's schedules just so that I could see an example of what all they did and how they did it. Because all of this was new for me too, and trying to get things done just right was important so that I could let the family know that I wasn't going to be ruining the grandchildren by homeschooling them.
How do you handle kids at each age and at the same time?
I joked with you earlier that you watch Little House on the Prairie and then do whatever Miss Beadle does with her little one-room schoolhouse. But we've got, as I said, several different grades going on here. Share the science class, share the history class. The 8th grader is going to take away from that history class a lot more than the 2nd grader, but it's all still there, it's still being listened to, and there might be more work involved for the older grades than for the less grades, but you share one subject and move on from there. So well, I'll show you an example. We used to do the classical conversations, but it didn't have the freedom that I needed for our family, and so we ended up coming away from the private school aspect and just did more of it on our done classical conversations as the program with the schooling factor. It just wasn't working out for our family. It was a little bit too rigid for our needs, and so we ended up coming away from that, but keeping the curriculum. And it's a really nice curriculum because it sets out all of these different facts, and it cycles through every 3 years. And so what they may not have picked up on the first year, well, we wait again, and a few years later they hear it again. And a lot of it is rote memory. And during the younger years, they memorize all of these random seeming facts, but then in the later years, those facts start to make sense because they're learning these things in science that, oh, I remembered that from our cycle 1 or cycle. So it's a really nice setup that way. And so a lot of times what we'll do is we will have a set amount of time, and we go through the app on the phone, and we just go through and we do the rote memory. We play different games. It's one of the kids' favorite times of the week because it's a lot of game time where we're sitting all together doing, the hand slap games or different things like that, where we're trying to memorize different words, different math facts, different science facts, history, songs, different things like that. So it's a really nice program. It costs a little bit more money than some of the other things will. This has been one of our favorites. It's not grass, and it's history, but she includes geography, English, Bible. You really only art. You really only have to worry about getting an additional science program and an additional math program. So if you're still looking for curriculum, the Knotgrass family has history based, and it is complete curriculum pretty much. You just need to supplement with your math and science. It's designed so that the child does the reading, which is lovely because a mom with a bunch of kids, I might have to do something else with one of the others, and so I can just say it's not grass time, and then they go ahead and they read through their lesson, and then when they come to the end of the lesson, they have the lesson activities, the review questions, and then hands-on history ideas. And at the end of all of their lessons, they have a unit study where they kind of go back and do like a unit activity. And so that's a really fun thing. And then if you've got other people doing Not Grass with you, then you can kind of do a show and tell at the end of the unit and say, well, this was my Pueblo and pottery exhibit. What do you have? And the
cool.
kids get to share that way. So it's kind of fun that way. So that's something where you handle the different ages, where you just combine the different coursework. Obviously with math, spelling, you can't really do that. And so I use Matthew C for my math program. And I use that because Mr. Demi teaches the class for me. We just pop that in and it will be math time. So while I'm busy working with one of the others on their spelling or on their English, then essays, something like that, then the others will watch their math program and start their math. If they don't understand it, there's the teacher's guide, and so they can go back and they can read the actual teacher's manual. The teacher's manual has the answers in the back of the book, and so if the kids wanted to try and figure out the math lesson for themselves, then they can go back and look at the answers and see if they've done, and kind of tell if they're figuring it out for themselves or if they're cheating. And then that's another life lesson in and of itself. So they've got Matthew C. You really just kind of flip-flop back and forth, balance between different coursework that has to be done individually and then other coursework that you can share and do together. If you have older children, what you can do is have them match up with one of the younger children and have reading time. Give them a book. Not Grass also has the different books the literature that go along with each of the unit studies, and so you can have your child read that work of literature with one of the younger children, or vice versa, and have the little one practice their reading capabilities, and the older one can go ahead and help that way. If you've got really little ones, you can have them, draw, play plasticine, just all of the different, hands-on, ooey-gooey activities that you may not be able to get into right now, but are important for hand and eye coordination. And so you want your older ones to match up and use that as child development period, so that the older ones are still learning and still working, but you're a family, and so you work together and you're a unit and you help each other, which is another life lesson.
That's wonderful. Very cool. That's interesting how you're able to figure all of that out and make sure every kid gets what they need.
Yes.
And learns the way that they learn best.
And one of the things that I have noticed are that children are excellent with other children. They're very patient, very giving, very caring, and so they teach the parents so much. So homeschooling is not just for the teacher and the child, it's also for the child to be the teacher for the parent.
Wow, that's really cool. Very cool. All right, what are some of the best resources and curriculum that you can, we've talked about some of your curriculum and all of it sounds amazing, but can you outline some more curriculum for us and best resources?
All different kinds of curriculum out there, and there's all different kinds of styles of schooling. You can be very regimented if you're homeschooling because of COVID this year and you're not sure that you're going to be doing this for very long. You could look into K-12. It's pretty much a public school program done through the computer. It's online learning and it's staying close with the core curriculum, the core aligned curriculum. So if your child is used to all of that and you don't want to change them up into a more traditional study, then you may want to stay with K-12. You may even want to just talk to your school system and find out if their principal can just give you, their list of resources, and you can follow that at home. You've still got, well, each school system is still doing different things that way with the online learning. So if you're only going to be doing the homeschooling for the 1 year, then you could look into that. If you're thinking about homeschooling for a couple of years, you can kind of mix and match different things. I've really enjoyed the Knotgrass and other curriculums like that because they are kind of an all-in-one package, and then you just have to get a couple extra books here and there. I started out with My Father's World. I loved this because from the beginning, all I had to do was open up my book and, oh look, week 1, this is what I have to do. It's all there, and they even have what I'm supposed to say on the other side, so I really don't have to think. And as a brand new homeschooler, not wanting to make any mistakes, this was a really nice way to fall back.
Oh, wow.
And not have to worry about what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. They even have a book basket at the end, and the Hazels have gone through and they have a list of different books, what's in each book and how it relates to that particular week of lessons. So you can go to the library and you can just pull out all of these books from the shelves for that week of learning and have them in a special library basket, and then the kids just go ahead and read those books, and they've got a resource right there. And
That's awesome.
It's teaching you a love of learning, which is what you want to develop in your children, so that as they grow up, they still have that that love and that desire to explore and to learn as much as possible.
Cool.
So, My Father's World, Abeka is another program, Bob Jones University. There's a lot of all-in-one curriculum packages similar to this. Rod and Staff, they are a Mennonite-based curriculum, and they have some really nice things. We use their spelling. That's falling down the hill. We use their spelling. In grade 3, they start cursive writing. So the child needs to learn how to write and read cursive writing, which is important if they're going to be reading any historical documents from this country's past or any
yeah,
others
that's
for
true.
that matter. So that's something that may be important to you. So you can buy cursive writing from the dollar store, and you can learn, the child can learn the cursive writing for $1. You know, there's a lot of free programs online. Just Google. Easy Peasy is a free online curriculum that you can go ahead and follow everything that they've done. All sorts of resources out there. I prefer My Father's World, and I like to add the classical conversations to it. My Father's World, they use a collection of different programs, so it kind of introduces you to several quality subject areas done by different companies. Okay, so with the My Father's World, she has the list of books to get from your library, the book basket. The nice thing about My Father's World is that she uses all sorts of different subjects published by other companies, not just their own, and so that gives you an introduction to science books from Apologia, Answers in Genesis, really nice publications. Knotgrass, some of their works are really good. For history, as well as Story of the World. I didn't tell you about Story of the World. That's also a history-based, and My Father's World introduces the Story of the World history books for their use. Rod and Staff Publications has all sorts of different subjects that they have. We found out about Rod and Staff through My Father's World spelling program, and then we've ended up just sticking with it because it is a thorough program that teaches the different aspects of spelling. And let me see, Diagramming the Scriptures is another book.
So like diagramming sentences?
Yeah, diagramming sentences, only you're diagramming the scriptures, and
That's
so
cool.
you're actually learning the depth of the scriptures, and so that counts as Bible. Or if you were on the secular side, that counts as great books, and so you get to do a great books literature study, as well as diagramming the sentences as you're diagramming the scriptures. And so as a homeschooler, you can do things public school style. You can go the complete opposite and do the unschooling style, where you just wake up and let the child choose what he or she is going to study that day. You know, maybe they're looking at the clouds that day, and you think, okay, we're going to study science, cumulus nimbus. How about we throw in some Latin there? And you try and cover as many subjects as possible. So each family has their own style, and that's the freedom that you have in homeschooling, is not just one curriculum will fit your family or your child. It may be that you have 6 children and you have 6 different programs that you're running. I'm not that talented, so the kids have to stick with the one program that I find works for me, because if I can teach it, then that's fine.
It's got to work for Mama first.
It does.
how to stay sane and take care of yourself.
Growing up in the public school system, my most favorite day of the school years were the professional development days, where we as the child got to stay home and relax and enjoy freedom. And then the teacher was supposed to have their professional development day. As a homeschool system, we get to call our own professional development days. And so if there is a day that you just, you've been up all night long with a sick baby or a troubled teen, and you just need the sleep that day because you know that you are not going to be functioning properly, we have DVDs that have been put out. We pop this thing in, that counts as science. Magic School Bus, pop that in, and you can have a science marathon all day long. You just watch Magic School Bus, and you go on field trips with the Frizz, and those children will learn all sorts of different scientific terminology and processes, and you can have a nap. You can, if your children are old enough, you can go on out and have a day where you just, go to the tea room and just have quiet, peace, no children asking questions, no having to correct any behavior or poor sentence structures, any of that. Sometimes it's just too much. And so if you are having a day like that, you just go ahead and say, it's Professional Development Day, Mama needs a break. And if the children have their bookmark paperclip system, then they know what to do, and they can go ahead and get their paper clips taken care of that day, and you don't have to worry about things, which is another nice thing about teaching your children to be independent as young as possible. Videos are excellent. Books are great. If you've got your book basket from the library, you can go ahead and do book basket time. Today is Independent Reading Day. You can make national holidays because it's your house. You can say, today we are going on a field trip. Even though the kids have not got their things paper clipped, even though it's not Friday, even though it's not working out that day, it's the day to go to the lake. And you just come to the lake, you bake cookies, you relax, you just enjoy family time. Homeschooling is 24/7. And it gets exhausting sometimes, and you have to remember that you are a home before you're a school, and you're a family before you're a schoolroom. And there are days that you just need to take a break and relax and just enjoy each other for being who we are, and just take a break. So if you're noticing that your sanity level is kind of on the shaky side, it's time to take a step back, and you don't have to have the whole school system just fall apart that day. You've got books, and even though you're not following a set curriculum, if you've got a few history books or a few science books, even math books, Life of Fred, the Circumference series are great. Graham Base has a lot of really beautifully illustrated books that are all about puzzles and breaking the code. And so if you've got a few of those books on standby, then you can just have a book day. Pizza Hut does a Book It program, and each month the child has to read a certain amount of books. Those are excellent, and as a homeschooler, you can sign your children up for the Book It program, and that encourages the child to read. You can set, the genre of books that they're going to be reading that month. You can set the time period. You can set the type of author. Only going to read American authors today. Only going to read British authors today. Just choose whatever you want to do that way. And then if you've got a bad day as a mom, you just go ahead and say, it's book day. So just have some backup resources. Find some friends that are also homeschooling so that they can kind of commiserate with you, and then just go ahead and have them kind of on speed dial, where you know who to text when you're having a rough day, and just go ahead and find something positive in the day and focus on that.
Great, that's wonderful. Yeah, it is important, self-care, and every part of life, but especially when you're at home and you have 6 kids and it's easy to get busy.
It is. But that's the thing to remember, is that you're a family, and homeschooling, it's a joy because you have the freedom to teach whatever you want to teach that day. And so if your house is a disaster, we're going to have Housework 101 today and teach your children how to clean so that they clean to your standards. And then go ahead and divide the house up and say, look, you're in charge of bathrooms today. You know how the bathrooms need to be cleaned because you have gone ahead and you have taught them. Walk with them, show them what to do. Don't expect for them to know what to do, but show them what you want for them to do, and then expect them to do it. And you may have to go back a few times and reteach, but you're teaching them life skills so that when they get to college, they're not going to look at a laundry machine for the first time and wonder what on earth they're going to have to do to get clean clothes to come out of there. You know?
Right.
So teach them life skills. And if you're having a rough day, if the housework is just beyond sanitary, you can't stand it, have a housework day. Teach them what to do and make that your new subject. Just if you want for them to make cookies, teach them how to make cookies. That's science, that's math, that's English, that's reading comprehension. Try and find something that incorporates all of the subjects.
Wonderful. Yep, great ideas. Okay, so last question. How do you decide if a child needs to be more challenged or if he or she needs some slack?
I think the most important thing is grace. We have a standard for ourselves, but children are our very best mirrors. And so if you notice that your child is acting out, if you notice that your child is developing a temper, take a step back and look and see if they are legitimately having a problem or if they are imitating what they have seen in you. That was probably the most difficult part of homeschooling for me, is noticing all of my faults, because the children will mirror those. And so you see a lot of yourself in your child. And so if you notice that they are socially awkward, it might be time to take a look at the mirror and find out what you're doing that's making them that way. If they're really struggling with their manners, their mannerisms, how they handle frustration and anger, take a step back and look and see if you are a cause of any of that. Ephesians talks about fathers not provoking your children to wrath. It works for moms too, and a lot of times we may drive them too hard. Don't compare your child to another child in the family, and definitely not to a child outside of the family, because each homeschooling family, they each have different goals in life. And so if you have one family whose goal is to produce Harvard graduates, doctors, lawyers, don't compare that to your family if you are completely content in producing hard-working, family-loving factory workers. There's going to be 2 levels of education. One is not going to be above the other. Don't compare. What you really want for the homeschooler is to learn a love of learning. If they can find joy in learning, then you have succeeded as a parent, even if that child is an F student. You know, you look at Thomas Edison, you look at Albert Einstein. They were not A students in the public school system, but their moms believed in them and did whatever they could to help those boys, and look at what happened. So if you're looking at your child and you're wondering if they're really struggling with understanding math, you know, go get their eyes checked, make sure that they can read properly, make sure that they can see properly, make sure that the comprehension is there. You may have to find a different curriculum, you may have to find a different program altogether. You may have to find a whole new way to teach, but grace is the most important part of that, because if you've got the grace and the mercy for that child, then they'll go far no matter what the program is and no matter what the problem they are struggling with. So you just watch, and you're going to be with that child all the time, so you're going to see how they act and how they behave, and if they're giving it their all and they really are struggling, just step back a year or two. That's the freedom in homeschooling. Just because they're in grade 8 doesn't mean that they are all the way in grade 8. They may still have some grade 6 math skills. They may still have, they may still be struggling somewhere else, but they may be in grade 12 English books, you know. They may be up ahead with their art capabilities. So it's a matter of being the mom and fighting for your child. And you have that freedom. So it's really good. If they're acting bored, hop them up a couple years, you know. My 5th child, he sat in his little rocking swing and he fell asleep during the day for all of his nap times while he's listening to the kids do their math work, their reading. And that little boy, I had to hold him back because he wanted to catch up to his sister 2 years older than him, and he would have surpassed her. But I knew that her little ego wouldn't have been able to handle that. And so that would be something that, again, as a mom, you may go ahead and find a different program so that he can excel while she doesn't get her feelings hurt as she struggles along with her math. You know, so there's all sorts of different resources there. What is it? Math Mammoth, that's another program. Teaching textbooks. There's all sorts of different programs out there. Just look them up. Find someone else who homeschools, talk to them. If you're in your cover school, talk to them, find out what they're using, and talk about the problems, talk about the good things and the problems, so that you guys have a bouncing board and you've got a different, a sounding board rather, to bounce ideas off of, so that you can go ahead and find out what would be the best fit for your child and for yourself.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of your ideas and your tips and tricks. I love that you're so free with each kid, but you still have that level of structure that they need, and just working with each one and having all the different ideas and catering towards them. That's wonderful. And teaching them not just math and science, but just how to be good human beings and to be successful and learn how to take care of themselves and be their own individual human. That is the biggest job.
It's important that you get to teach what should become your future best friends.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
It's really exciting.
Yeah.
And to see their growth and development.
Yeah.
That's really fun. In the public school system, the moms, the dads, they still get to see that aspect, but not as magnified.
Yeah.
And so it's a treat it's a sacrifice and it's hard. There's going to be really hard days and you wonder why on earth you decided to homeschool. But if you have gone back to the beginning and you have your goals and your plans, if you write down your plan, if you write down your goals, your motto, you know, something, make a school catchphrase, then you can go back to that school catchphrase on your hard days and remember why it is that you're doing this, and that will help you. But
That's great.
It's a joy.
That's wonderful. A very rewarding job.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Beth. You have been an absolute treat. Thanks so much. All right, y'all. Well, I hope that y'all have a good day, and I hope that you got a lot from this. I know I did. All right, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
On your bad days, on the days that nobody wants to do anything, read a book about tea. Have a tea party. The kids have to make their own stone soup. They have to go outside, they have to find a stone. Or they have to each contribute in some way to a recipe. And they all put the ingredients in, they all make the cake. Something like that, and then you sit down and you enjoy each other's company. Or you have history time and you listen to a history lesson. Story of the World, this is read by Jim Weiss, and you just get to listen to him tell you a story. And it pertains to whatever history section you're reading at that point in time. Excellent stuff. Magnetic pattern blocks. Teaches all sorts of aspects of your math, your shapes. Really good for the older child to play with the younger child. You'll have all sorts of quilts going on, all sorts of, you know, table textile background, all sorts of things. The kids get to be creative and they get to enjoy and they get to play a math game. Boggle, old school, Scrabble, equals, bananagrams, the tens game, all sorts of different games that you can play where you have a game day, and instead of doing book work you get to do something like this where you have fun with your child and they learn spelling. Maybe you're with a 7-year-old who doesn't spell very well at all, but if they are trying and they can tell you the word that they spelled, give them the point for that one, teach them the right way, and then move on. So really good options there for when you're tired, when you don't want to do books, when you want to do something different. So just use all the different resources around you that you can.
Okay.